My name is Jason Sheeler. I have the honor and privilege to be the part-time mission exec here for the Southern District. And we are bringing you these video conferences, webinars to deal with topics that we're all going through right now in order to help encourage, equip, give a format to discuss, and also just to learn from each other about best practices. This is a forum to just bring the information and discussion again, and to share best practices so we can learn together. We're not dictating what to do and how to do it. You are the expert in your congregation. You know what's best in your congregation. We're just come alongside to give you some guidelines, some guidance, some experiences that you can reflect on and say, you know, how can I avoid that, or how can I take that experience and use it in my context that best fits where you're at. The Southern District, with being in 4 states and all sorts of kind of different cultural settings, whether you got stuff in the coast or to the country or in the city, there's a lot of variety, a lot of diversity there. And so, and we can sense that diversity, especially now going through this COVID together, and how our people are responding, how congregations are responding and adapting. So we want to bring that to the forefront in our discussion, and then look as we move forward, as looking forward to reopening. And as I read an article, we really probably shouldn't even say reopening. The church has always been open. God's mission hasn't stopped. God's work hasn't stopped. He's still working and doing his thing, making more and better disciples, and still using the church in different ways. It's about how we regather. How do we regather as a church? And what does that look like? And what's it going to feel like? And how do we do that? And how do we help our people and do that in a way that's safe and secure, and really just helps people be able to come back together as a church in worship and other things. So today we have President Johnson, who's going to be sharing with us, and also Danny Coyne. And as we do this webinar today, we're going to have a discussion, and then near the end of discussion time, we're going to invite you in to ask your questions. You can be putting your questions in the chat, and we have Daisy from the district office. She is there monitoring those, and we want to address your questions. And so we'll have that at the end, and we'll be here for an hour together. And so if you want to invite other people to join in, this also, again, is being pushed out on our Facebook page. And so you can go back and reference it. If we do not answer any of your questions, or you want to follow up with some things, you're free to contact me. That's what I'm here to do and help out. And so you can do that at the district office, and you can call my cell number, 850-520-0800. I know that was too fast for you to get it. We'll put it up there. Or, you know, you can give me an email. We'd be glad to do that and help walk that through. So we'll just open with prayer, and then we'll get going this discussion. And so, Lord, none of us ever planned something like this, and obviously you have made a move here in the world. And we're praying, Lord, that this is a time that, as you have not just interrupted, but really disrupted life, and that it would really bring us back to you and bring our world to repent, and that all the world would know you in the midst of this, that you are still on the throne, you're still leading, you're still greater than this. And so is your love and your mercy. And so, Father, and as we long to be gathering again, as that the church does, it gathers and scatters, and it goes and does life together. Lord, we miss that. And so what does that look like, and how do we continue to do that? And how do we continue to follow you as we be the church that's has your will be done amongst us? And so lead and guide our discussions here. Give us wisdom, discernment as we talk about those things. Give us ears and eyes to hear these things, but also the ears and eyes for our congregation, our setting, so we can process all that's going on and be the shepherds you called us as we shepherd our flock in ways to lead them to those green pastures, but give them safe passage in the journey. So we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. So I want to start just with President Johnson here. Glad you could be with us today. It's always great to be able to connect, and I know you've been running like crazy and spread out, but let's just talk about what you've seen and is going on in the church, and how through this whole pandemic, just big picture.
Yeah, so I have sent out 2 letters recently, helping people to understand some of the processes in opening. We also have a really good resource that you're going to want to check out that's coming from Synod, and that's at lcms.org/welcome back. And they have some really, really good resources there to prepare to help to welcome your people back, but also to welcome those from the community that might come to your church and be prepared to receive them. This whole thing has a great mission component to it, in that our world has been really upset. And a lot of people have had their worldview just absolutely rocked. And they are searching for answers. And as we know, the only place that there are any true answers are in the Christian church. And I'll take that even one step further. And I'll say that the only place where there are the true answers is in your local Lutheran congregation, LCMS congregation in your community. We have the true gospel. We have word and sacrament. We have Jesus Christ at the center. The gospel is the power of God unto salvation, and we have that to give to people. So we're going to want to be prepared that God is going to bring people to hear and receive the gospel from us. There are people that you don't even know who have been watching your online presence, people that would not normally darken the door of a church. Your people have been inviting their family and friends to come watch your congregation online, and those folks have developed a connection to you, and some of them are going to start coming physically to worship as we begin to regather. Might not happen on the very first Sunday, but folks are going to trickle in, and we want to be able to welcome them and be prepared to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with them. And so the resources from Synod are really top notch, and so I recommend those to you. As Jason spoke about, we cover 4 states, so the Southern District is Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Panhandle of Florida. And each one of those states has different response to this COVID crisis. Each one of those states is having different response to how they are opening back up for business and how we can regather as congregations. And so you really need to pay attention to your local state guidelines, and then also to the, especially the CDC guidelines as you prepare to do a regathering and bringing people in. So the guidelines that we give today are general, because I cannot tell a congregation on the beach in Florida the exact same thing that we would tell a rural congregation in Alabama. So these are general guidelines, and you have to go and follow your state and what's going on with that. But you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's you hit on something. I didn't want to run over it. It was really it kind of popped in my mind when you said that about the world being upset. And it really made me think about, it's not just the world. I mean, it's also the church, and Christians are upset, and maybe a better word, there's just a lot of emotions going on and people in different places. And so, and then that emotion seems to be transferred on. I mean, not only us pastors have emotions, but that emotion gets transferred on us as pastors, right? And people are pushing either to be open, not open. So how would you help maybe give some wisdom for our pastors here about, shepherding? I mean, this is an issue that can almost divide us instead of unite us at times.
Yep.
We got people on such both sides. I saw the graphics about wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, and how that's just polarizing.
Right.
In our culture, but I don't think our congregation's separate from that too. So if you could speak to that, about what you would
Sure.
say, just shepherding some of that emotion for themselves, and also what they're feeling, the pressure of the congregation.
Right. So I'm getting a lot of feedback on that kind of topic. The pastors are getting pushback from people in the congregation. Some congregations have a large number of healthcare professionals, who are not wanting to ever open again because they're so fearful of this virus. And so the first thing we've got to do is we've got to be in prayer. Praying for wisdom, praying for mercy, praying for grace to just exude out of us. And then as we pray, The other thing is to go slow. Go slow in what you're doing to open. Go slow in communicating with your leadership. Go slow in communicating with your congregation. Go slow in communicating with your community, and then cover everything with just grace and mercy. There's going to be people that are very, very, very fearful, and we as Christians, we shouldn't be, but they're going to be. And so love those people, walk patiently with those people, understand that people are having fears and anxiety, and as much as you can as a pastor and as leader in the congregation, be the least anxious presence. You know, we used to be taught to be the non-anxious presence, but none of us can be non-anxious, but we can certainly be the least anxious and share calmness with others. And so just go slow, go with love and mercy and grace, and just wisdom.
I thought you brought some good points. I don't think we want to miss that is, and I've been hearing this over and over again, communication, communication, communication. So
Yeah.
the more there is a crisis going on, the more communication we need to communicate with. And even, I know for us, sometimes communication seems really small and doesn't seem to make a difference, or like, hey, we said that. and then I have a meeting and I find out that we said it, and even in the meeting of leaders, they didn't catch it. And I'm going, how did you, you just go, how do you miss this? And
Right.
and I don't know, I probably echo that every week. How you miss this? But we're so close to it, we forget where people are at. I thought the other thing that you said was really important, in that covering with love and mercy. The word we've been using is empathy. How can I get out of somebody else's shoes? How can I understand and empathize with them where they're at, instead of dismiss it or run over it? Um, if I see those who don't have any fear whatsoever, trying to say, look, I don't have fear, and then I have faith, and now I'm a moral superior than you are, and greater faith, and now they're playing this game, and that dynamic starts to come in, and they push their way, which gets
But
really hard.
it's easy for us, Jason, to assert our own individual beliefs and politics. I mean, you spoke at the beginning about divisive issues. So I'm I'm very, very conservative libertarian. I want the government out of my business, and I don't want them tell me what to do. But at the same time, then, as a Christian and as a Lutheran Christian, we are called to serve our neighbor, and so I have to willingly lay my rights down in order to serve my neighbor. And I'm seeing this happening in our congregations where there is division, that somebody is asserting that the state can't tell us what to do, and the pastor can't tell me that I have to wear a mask. And the reality is that regathering and having a safe place to regather is all about serving our neighbor. And so if I need to wear a mask in order to make you feel comfortable, whether I think the mask it keeps you safe or not, if it makes you feel comfortable to come and receive word and sacrament, then I'm going to lay my rights aside. I'm going to lay my political ideology aside. I'm going to serve you, and I'm going to wear a mask. So that serving of our neighbor, I mean, that's Lutheran 101, right? I mean, Luther was big on this neighbor thing, and that you exist, you have your vocation, you are here, not for yourself, but to serve your neighbor. And so we lay down our rights willingly in order to serve our neighbor.
And that's maybe one of those little good things that's coming out of this, that we remember that the church exists for others.
Yeah.
Not for ourselves. And so even we gather on Sunday, we tend to get a little more gathered self-focus, what we like, our preferences, and things arranged around us. And now we're getting pushed out of our comfort zone. So that's a change of not just behavior. It's more of a change of mindset and heart, that we're talking about in our culture too. That's something that's probably hard to just communicate. It's going to have to be really modeled and communicated over and over again each time you gather. Yeah, that's really good. So before we get anything else, I think one of the things we talked about is that even though we are going to gather, and this is something that we want to continue to remember, to be, as we're talking about coming back together, we can't forget those online. And we cannot forget that group of people, like President Johnson said, there's people you've been reaching and you have no idea you've been reaching right now, who have now started to connect to you. And we start wrestling with that question because one guy, actually I had some people in my church who said, well, all these clicks are going to lead to bricks. In other words, if they're clicking, they're going to move to the building. And I think that's a big assumption. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things that's I think is really important is that as we begin to regather in physical contact with each other, that we do continue to do the online stuff that you've been doing all along, because a lot of people are being reached with the message of the gospel from your congregation, and they are being affected by the Holy Spirit. And I think that we will begin to see some of those people showing up into our lives and being able to minister to them. And it's not always clicks aren't going to turn into bricks, but there's always going to be people. I like that illustration with Jesus, the concentric circles, so he had John, the disciple he loved, then he had the 3, then he had the 12, and then there was the 72, the 120, the 5,000, the what, there's always going to be those people that are on the periphery that don't necessarily jump into the physical presence. But we minister to them and we keep sharing the gospel to them. And this change where a lot of congregations did not have an online presence prior to this, now have an online presence. And I just want to encourage you to continue that online presence. That's huge ministry that the gospel is going out to people that you are not in physical contact with.
And let's not just limit that to Sunday. And we've been seeing people doing stuff all during the week, devotions or music or other things. And so we want to encourage all that to continue on. In fact, we think that there's a lot of opportunity there. And so on the Leverage Network, one of these other webinars we're going to offer with Rob Olmsted, and he's going to come and talk to about how to use our technology, how to use broadcasting, how can we do that through Facebook, YouTube, other venues. And, maybe you've just been using a cell phone. That's where you started at. And that's where we started. And you want to say, if I want to take some next steps to do this a little bit better quality, or just some other ways you can just even use that cell phone in a better way to do the broadcasting. I mean, it doesn't have to be super fancy. I mean, my always goal is let's be real functional, and then we can maybe start adding a little bit of fancy to it. But
the resources that are being used, Jason, it's a tremendous opportunity. So, we have 157 congregations in the Southern District. One of my jobs is to go around and visit all of our congregations. That's part of being the district president. And it's hard to get around to every single one of those in a 3-year term. But while we've been doing this, I've been going to 3 or 4 worship services a Sunday, because folks have been broadcasting it. And not only that, but also the Bible studies. Man, there's been some fantastic Bible studies that some of our pastors are doing, and they're broadcasting. All of that information out there is all gospel stuff that the Holy Spirit can use. So, continuing the online presence is huge.
It's great. It's great. Well, let's talk about what it's been like. And, Danny and Pastor Danny and myself, we have started to regather in our buildings. So we've been going through this change. And I know, President Johnson, you have seen others, but let's just talk about some of the practical things we've done and what's worked, what didn't work, and, expectations and some things that surprised us and what we learned from it. So, but then why don't you just share, some thoughts that you had and the things you planned as you were going into it, and then we'll just kind of take your journey for a little bit and then how that works. So why don't you just kind of give us some.
Well, after the announcement of the shutdown here, we're on the North Shore, Louisiana. For those who don't know, Danny Coynan, pastor at Holy Trinity in Covington. The announcement came down for the shutdown. We were trying to work out, when we thought this was coming, some different scenarios, what it might look like. And we were just kind of mapping out scenarios, worst case, best case, don't worry about it case, none of them happened. And so we immediately began to kind of retask what we were going to do. Now, our timeline, because we have a preschool, we got cut short on the preschool as well. So the first thought went to the health and well-being of our preschool and the teachers and their families. So we kind of had a synthetic aperture there. We weren't looking, what Sunday we could open. It's when can we have our building ready for the preschool. And so we installed Halo systems, the hydrogen peroxide. They're hospital systems. You can get them at Home Depot and places like that. I think they're like $1,000 installed, $900 installed, whatever. Works on hydrogen peroxide and kills most viruses and germs. So we were being proactive on that point and getting that done so that the building would be presentable for when we would return. Well, it turned out to be a huge a blessing for us as we started to return, because it became very, I guess, indicative of how things were going to go. Our chapel is very small. Now it's a 1960s chapel, and people in 1960 were smaller than they are in the 21st century. And the blueprint says you can get 7 people in our pews, and I defy anybody to actually do that today. So the density the fire marshal says we could have was pretty dense, but to do this, our problem was the 6-foot separation. Mm-hmm. We would basically, I think we did the math to actually make sure everybody had 6 feet between them. We were looking at 28 people in our chapel. It wasn't that we couldn't get more people in there. The fire marshal's placard would have allowed us to have, I think it was 45. But there's no way you could get that. So we abandoned the chapel idea until we could all regather together in full. But we're blessed to have a gym in our Family Life Center where the preschool is. So when it came time that the governor would reopen us, our 25% rule in the gym is 94. It's 375 is our published placard. So we were really given a blessing there that we had the facility to spread out in. No, it's not the best scenario. And I would share with all of you, no scenario you're going to have until we're back right now is going to be the best that you're going to get. It's the best that you have available, and communicate again and again and again to your people that we are doing the best we can for them. Not the best that we want to do or the best that makes us comfortable. We are continuing our online, even though we're regathering, we're going to continue our online. Now, our online is a little bit different than just publishing or broadcasting our service. It's more vignettes and things like that. But we're meeting in the gym for both services because the capacity in our chapel is high, but the space is low. So what we did was, when we were originally scheduled to regather, some of our elderly were concerned about being in the closed-in space, and that, as they should. So we have we're blessed to have a pavilion, an outdoor covered area off of the playground of our preschool. Well, first week we planned on it, we got rained out, and then last week it was like 85 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, so we just that didn't work, and so we just kind of had to send out an email and a mailing saying we tried. Some of the other things we're doing, we are following the state fire marshal, and we've made communication. I heard that earlier. I can't stress that enough. Keep telling your people what you're doing. Even if it's something mundane, it might make a difference to somebody. It might give them the extra confidence that you're doing something. For instance, like our Halo system, and it's kind of been fun. This is a participatory thing that I didn't know was going to happen, and it's gotten to be kind of hilarious. Wiping down the tables after we've set up our gym. We spread out tables and put chairs around them so that the social distancing is programmed into the tables. Families can sit together, but there's no chairs between them. And then the perimeter of the gym has individual chairs for those who don't want to sit with family or don't want to sit closer to someone in the congregation. So it's kind of built in. So if you have space to spread out and you have tables available to seat people at, you can program the social distancing without having one of the ushers become the social distancing police saying, you have to move down, you're 2 feet too close or whatever, and avoid embarrassing people. Whatever you need to do to work your social distancing in, kind of prescribe it before they get there, instead of making people tell them where to stand and things like that. grid out however you can with your space that you have available where they can and can't sit, so that they feel welcome to come in and sit where you allow them to, if you lack of a better word. Okay. But
Yeah.
communicate all that. The first Sunday we got back, we are currently not communing. We're going to be communing in June. But we started telling people how we were going to commune when we did. And I've talked about it 2 Sundays now, so that when we get to the point of communion, they're not going to panic.
And
Yeah.
I want to hit a pause. You've covered a lot of stuff that's really good, and I don't want us to miss it because it is a lot of things to think about. We want to come back to communion because that question's been asked, and also you answered a question that was asked there too, which was good, about families or people that come together. Can they stay together? And you said yes, and you know, for our church we do the same too. But I think I want to miss that you said measure. You know, you really have to measure and plan out your space.
Yes.
And be intentional. You're going to set the place up for success by creating the space before people come. You know, if some people who are in pews, they're going to have to rope them off, tape them off. They're going to have to block them very clearly. You know, we set up, we did an RSVP and to make people reserve a spot. Right. And we just realized in our culture, I know a lot of churches are doing that. In our culture, that wasn't going to work because 10 people who RSVP'd, 10 of the some who RSVP'd didn't show up, and then we had people show up without RSVP. So, but we kind of did that at first to say we separate the chairs and laid it out based on the RSVPs. So if there was a family of 4 that came and that was going to come to church, we had 4 set in that distance already. So they had their assigned seats. It was already set very clearly. We had to go, like you said, you know, so you set the space up. I think the one thing that people can take away too is you moved and you tried different locations to try to accommodate things to make it easier and make it better. I mean, and you experimented, and you know, you found out they weren't going to work, and that's okay. I mean, there's going to be experimentation,
right? And
you got to have that permission to do that. And you try to go outside because the research is showing outside. You know, it's being killed by the weather and all the sunshine, all those other things. So, you know, and people will be in that closed space. And so for those who can, you know, we had the air conditioner running, and when the service hit a certain number of people in it, we opened up a door or two just to have fresh air. The first time we did it wasn't really great because we got a lot of fresh air and we had water dripping on us. But so we decided not to open that much. But, you know, we were trying to just help out with that issue. I thought the other thing, prescribed holy ushers. Oh, ushers. You know, some of us have said about really been instructing our people to come early. And I think the decision everybody's going to have to wrestle through, are you going to really usher people, like really greet them and seat them, or have it so set up that it can't fail? For us in a little bit smaller space, we're doing a more ushering. So we'll have 7 chairs in a spot. And so therefore there's a family of, let's say a family of 2 comes and a family of 3. Well, I can put chairs between them if I usher them. If I let them just go find a seat, I'm not going to be able to manage that space, and we might get too full. So yeah, those are really good things that you said. I really appreciate. So once you talk about your place and then what you're doing, and then we'll go to President Johnson. He can share his discussions about communion during this time. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to tell you, we've been meeting two weeks now, and I want to encourage all of you listening. The first time you get back together is going to be a dumpster fire because everybody's used to doing things the old way. Okay. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to be awkward with your people. Okay. Don't act like you know what's going on if you don't. Okay. Let them see you being vulnerable as you return, because this is going to be crucial that you go through this thing together. You can plan as much as you can. And those of you who know me, I'm a planning nut. I can't back out of the driveway without a checklist. I'm just that way. But the unknowns were there. Like, for instance, presetting our space for worship. We still had to explain to people why it was set up the way it was and why it was going to be different. And so our ushers became kind of guides, if you will, and making it okay for them to come in. And we giggled, and we had some interesting things happen, but allow yourself to make those mistakes and let your people see you being authentic, that you are doing this for them, and you want desperately. One of the things that I got emotional about was when I turned around and actually realized I was back worshiping with my people. I got extremely emotional about it because I missed them and I wanted to do anything for them. So they got to see me vulnerable. Maybe that's not you. I'm not going to tell you to do that. But our worship in the gym is going okay. We had an increase this week over last week. Some of the things that are communication. I am not going to tell anybody whether they should wear PPEs or not, but it's all over our invitations and it's all over our announcements. We encourage the use of all PPEs, and that's the way we leave it. We encourage everyone to do that. I do not wear one at the front of the church because I don't want to cause any, because I'm more than, the first Sunday I was not 6 feet away from my people, I was 60 feet away from my people. They sat all in the back, so, but to let people know that that I'm going to stay away from them. I'm not going to bridge that gap, and you have to make that promise to people that you're not going to bridge that gap. President Johnson said that. I love you enough that I'm not going to cause you anxiety, and you need to know that. So I did not feel comfortable trying to wear a mask for preaching, so I made sure that there was plenty of distance there. I did not stay around afterwards to socialize and things like that. One of the things that you brought up, continuing online, that was not my intention, but that has become one of the biggest things that's been requested, that we continue to do it, because we are reaching people who are never going to darken our doorways ever. We've got some people who couldn't get here if they wanted to, in the country, and some people internationally. President Johnson said, be patient. We will be communing in June, but we wanted to bring things in phases, so that one thing at a time, so that it became, like we've already talked about, announcing the communion, how we're going to serve, so that there will be no question about how we're going to do this. So making ourselves vulnerable, and then finally that we laid out the place, and now our so that people would not, the anxiety of walking into a church, it's kind of like walking into a strange church in your own congregation. We didn't want people to have that anxiety. The services are briefer. We don't want to pretend to do something we're not able to do at this time. So, but what we do at Holy Trinity, whatever we do well. So we look at excellence in paring down and abbreviating the service, just so that people know we're doing it with excellence. Yeah. So yeah, it's a transition, but please, by all means, everybody, let your people see you being vulnerable as you go through this, because you're going through it with them, and let them know how much you miss them, and that'll make all the difference in the world.
So just to be, President Johnson, which one of you addressed, why don't you talk about ways people can do communion? That's been a big question I know that's come up, and with
that's probably one of the top questions that I'm getting when I'm talking with pastors and church leaders is about Holy Communion, and there's, again, the different congregations and the different settings. People have different opinions and are doing different things, and so probably not one a way of doing it is correct. But I'll tell you, we need to find a way to serve Holy Communion. I am just famished for being able to come to the table of the Lord with the people of God and receive Christ's true body and blood. And so we want to find ways to do that. Some congregations are still going to not have Holy Communion on Sunday during regular worship service, but we'll offer it at other times during the week, so that we can continue to have spacing, so that family units can come and receive Holy Communion from the pastor, and not have a big gathering of people going up. That way we can control the cleanliness of the settings a little bit. I know that a lot of people have pointed out that there's never been any proof that the common cup transfers any diseases. I believe that. I don't have a problem. I like the common cup. But a lot of people are scared to death. So let's not put a barrier in front of people to receive Christ's body and blood. Let's be attentive to serving our neighbors, whether or not their fear is rational and real. If they feel it, and they're going to stay away from the Lord's table, then we need to be addressing that as pastors, to pastor these people and love these people. So there's a lot of different ways. Some people are bringing up family units at one time to come up to the rail. They serve them with the common cup. And then they have Everclear with the purifier and clean that whole thing out with the Everclear before the next family comes up. If you're in a smaller congregation, you can work that out logistically. If it's a larger congregation, then you're going to have larger problems with the logistics. In my last letter, I did give a link to where you can buy the individually wrapped communion set that includes wine, not grape juice like has been out there, that you can buy the wine and the wafer, and it's sealed, that you can be able to give to people, and they can open it themselves, and then you speak the words of institution and do it that way. There's just a lot of ways that you can do it for your congregation. So you got to think this through. You got to think it through with your leadership, so that you're involving other voices. Then you have to communicate clearly with your congregation what you're going to do and what they can expect. And then you got to communicate it again, because like Jason said, we all know you announce things on Sunday morning, you put it in the bulletin, you send out an email, and people still don't hear, what you're saying. And so we've got to repeat these things over and over again. So find the way that works the best for your setting, and do it so that people are assured of safety and there is no fear. We remove as much fear and anxiety as we can. We can't remove all risk, but we remove as much as we can. And then, find ways to serve your people, and find ways to serve your people with the true body and blood of Jesus Christ. This is so important, especially after this fast that we've been on, to receive this.
Yeah, so, in our setting, we've taken the tray, and we have individual cups, and we just have used multiple trays with cups spread out. And then we used kind of the paper cups that you use on a cupcake, when you're baking. And so we put wafers individually in those cups and put it on a tray. And therefore, actually they're on like plates. And so we just put separate plates up there, and we move a couple plates at a time to keep everything separate. So people are taking it themselves, and we're doing the words institution, but we're keeping that distance, and they come up as a family group. So it's a little bit of adjustment. So you're going to have to figure that out. That works for us inside here. That's not going to work everywhere. And like you said, and you need to find that. Or,
and again, you encourage your people to be patient with you,
yeah.
Be patient with each other, because none of us have ever been through this. And then on patience, if I can say one more thing, Jason, brothers in the office, be patient with each other. If you have a different opinion than Danny or Jason has, recognize that other men are trying to do the best that they can in the circumstances that they're in, and we are all trying to do what is good, right, and salutary. So let's give each other a break, and be loving, patient, and kind with each other as well.
Yeah, I think that's really appropriate. I mean, how you do, again, we're avoiding touches and stuff like that. And not only with communion, but with offering, how you do an offering, or those kind of things too, that we're not touching. So you're going to look at that detail also, or especially, which we haven't talked a little bit about, how to deal with children. If you're having a nursery or not having a nursery, or children's. In fact, if you're having a nursery, that's going to bring on a lot of challenges. And then if you're going to have them in a worship service, then, how can you help them worship in the service with you too, is a great thing to wrestle with too. We got a question here about having any dumpster fire stories in your opening as you kind of regathered again. And I don't know if anybody's had any real fire or things go wrong that you just go, wow, this we didn't expect this. We didn't see this coming, and it happened when you first regathered. Did anybody have some of those kind of things, maybe shocks or things went wrong?
Well, I think Danny coined the term dumpster fire, so now he's got to explain it.
Yeah, he did. He stumped a...
Okay. Okay. Let me hang on. Okay, I'm on now. Okay. Yes, dumpster fires. Let's see. See, well, accompanist became a thing because we could not and will not mandate people to come back if they're not comfortable. And I know that we have to be careful about talking about age, but the truth of the matter is, those who are hardest hit by this virus are the elderly and people with pre-existing conditions. So when I'm aware of that, I try to be sensitive to that person without telling everybody in the congregation why they may or may not be there. And so we had a last minute accompanist, and for those of you who don't know, our 10:30 service is a modern style worship, family worship. And the pastor attempted to sing the praise songs for the congregation. Okay, now I'm a courageous man by nature, but I shouldn't have sung. Okay. Okay. So, but man, I mean, if you make a joyful noise. Okay. So that could have gone better. I forgot to tell everybody where the offering was going to be. And so I had to remind everybody at the end of the service, oh, by the way, don't leave without leaving your offering at the door. So, I did. I looked like a total mess. I can't remember some of the other things right off the top of my head. But the cleanup afterwards that's probably the funnest thing we're doing right now. People are going and grabbing gloves and bleach towels, and we got this cleaner that's supposed to be it'll kill anything. And people now they're actually policing their own seating area wherever they were sitting. They're wiping down the chairs. We showed them how to do it and wiping down the tables and the chairs that they sat at, and the place has been sterilized maybe 10, 15 minutes after the service. But we had no idea how we were going to do that. So things like that. Where do you set the air conditioner? Just people got hot, people got cold. Those are all. But I think for the most part, 99% of us, our people love them, and we love us, and we love them. And so again, letting them see you be vulnerable, well, that was interesting, and how are we going to fix that, and how are we going to do it again? So but the dumpster fires, sometimes church is a dumpster fire, but if we're dispensing grace to one another, we really can laugh about it, even if it's embarrassing.
Well, that goes back to communication too, Danny. We need to tell our people and each other over and over and over again that none of us have ever been through this. We are all trying to do the best that we can. So let's be patient with each other. And we can't hear that enough. We need to be reminded.
Yeah. So one of the things that we were discussing, things seem to be, and this is just it's not off subject, but just something in general. And I don't know if you're finding this in your flock. Our people have been sitting at home with nothing to do. And so issues tend to boil over, get bigger than life. Yep. And they tend to take a life of their own because we're not distracted with our life. And so one situation can get blown out of control because people are sitting at home with nothing to do. Well, let's give them something to do. Pastor Eric, I can't stress enough that have them pray with you for one another. Call on people. Call them and say, would you call Mrs. Schnickelgruber and see how she's doing? Okay. Give them something to do. Everybody wants to be a busybody. And if we what is it? Idle mind is a, so yeah. But just taking the anxiety away when we're back, because people walk in very timid and make the mistakes with them. But like I said, 99% of the time, they love you and you love them, and you can have a good laugh together. But let's not, communication. You hear about it, call them, get it out of the way.
Yeah, I think that goes back to where we started, where the emotions are high. And so when emotions are high, everything gets inflamed, and especially if you don't have, like what you said, the distraction of life. We tend to focus on these things even more. The emotions have brought us to focus, and if we're watching a lot of TV, that's going to definitely increase that amount of emotion too. I think that's great. Thank you. I want to go to a couple other questions here. The question is, did you survey your congregation, your members before attending? Danny's saying no. We did some little bit of surveying, but not a full-out email survey. We have looked at the Barner Group. The Barner Group is offering a survey, and it's a pretty in-depth survey, and it's it's beyond just Sunday morning. It gets into what are your comforts for shopping and other things and other things you've adjusted. It's measuring a lot. It gives you a lot of good information to kind of understand where your people's perspectives are. And that's why we've toyed with the idea of doing it. But we also know that the responses of our congregation for surveys is rather low. So if that works in your setting, I would encourage you to do surveys. That's another way of communicating and trying to get back. And, if you do a survey, make sure you communicate what you've asked back to people, obviously, drafting those questions, really take the time to draft good questions for the survey. Not just like, yes, would they come? Why not? Maybe you have to give some options or, explain some things. What would help you come? And so think through those questions. And there are some out there that you can Google and find other congregations have done that. Again, we have not done that, and Danny didn't do that. So we talked about communion, families. The one person was talking about having a lot of people at their congregation and had over 100 show up, but didn't answer the question if they had the space. So one of the things I would just address in your planning, I would think if you want to have an overflow option. So we have communicated, as we talked about, measuring a capacity. Like we can only have 50 people. So you might have to, if you have to manage your capacity, you've done the measurement like Danny was talking about, and you set the structure, you're going to say, well, we have a max of 50. We're going to follow the guidelines. And then we're going to either have to have multiple offerings or we're going to have to have a backup in case we get beyond that number. And so that might be, again, it might be having people meet in your fellowship hall and they're watching on TV where you hook up Facebook through it if you're doing a Facebook Live or some other technology. But might think through that if you have to have an overflow or you have to have more multiple offerings. And that's, again, where the RSVP, if you can build that into your culture, that's really a nice option for help, so you can help plan. So that's, again, those are paths you can take, what's going to fit in your area. If you need to do that, helps. Danny, I think you answered this question, but we'll ask anyway. Are you singing? Is your congregation singing?
Yes. Yes, we are singing since we have the correct, since we're able to social distance correctly, and those who want to wear the PPEs, yes, we are singing. I'm purposefully using slower, quieter, meditative hymns. One, because it's a smaller group, and two, because that keeps us from, any undue spitting, if you will. So we've been kind of trying to do that. But yes, we are singing. We're singing a bunch of people at Holy Trinity, and I wanted to get back to that as soon as possible. So but see, again, we're blessed with the open floor plan that we are able to separate. I think we have 10 feet between all the tables. So, to make sure, because we have the room to do so. But yes, we are singing.
President Johnson, you have anything about singing?
Yes, I've read that there have been a few very quick studies that have been done, and that it doesn't appear that the virus is any more spread in the environment through singing. So singing seems to be fairly safe, especially if people are using masks and you're not bringing things in. So that's part of our worship, singing the hymns, and so as much as you are able, I encourage you to do so while creating a safe environment for people that are there. And if people don't want to sing, you could find a place for them to sit or something so they're not being exposed to singing. I don't know, but again, being responsive to people's needs and being patient and caring with each other.
I thought some other good questions came up here, and that raises a good question, because often when we gather and worship, there tends to be fellowship with it. So that's a great thing to think about. You have to be intentional about your fellowship time too. And during the fellowship time, before and after worship, you're going to find out where people are at real quick. You're going to find that people who don't care about the distance and want to break that, And so I'm going to tell you, you got to put reminders out there because now the structure's not there to keep people at a distance. And, you know, again, it's what President Eric said about, you know, we are giving up our freedom for others and for the love of others. And it's a perception thing. So if people start doing that at great volumes, it's going to become perception that these guidelines don't matter, and it's going to break down the culture of safety for when you gather. You know, we struggle with it because we didn't want to become the police with whistles.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things I'm really struggling with, how to keep reaffirming that culture of honoring others and loving others and keeping that distance, especially during that. And what somebody else mentioned too, in the very insightful, is something for us all to think about as we talk about these guidelines that say, you know, that age group over 60, like don't come back to church. They feel excluded then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's also carriers too. And so, yeah, I think we got to be careful that, I mean, again, it's a learning thing, man. That's to me a dumpster fire there. You communicate something trying to be careful and bring a safe place, but you do that and you exclude people.
Yeah, and we never want to tell somebody you can't come to church. You know, it's out of an abundance of care that we're saying, if you're in a high risk category, you want to consider taking care of yourself and make sure you're not putting yourself in a position where you can contract the virus. But you know, to say that older people shouldn't come to worship is absolutely ridiculous. You know, our church is an older church body, and like you said, older people are being isolated, and that's part of the connection that we have as we regather. So we want to make these places safe places for higher risk people. You know, I'm not elderly, but I am a higher risk person. I mean, I had a terrible, you know, knocking on heaven doors experience with the COVID virus early on. But, you know, I've got diabetes, and I also regularly get pneumonia. So I'm at a very high risk for it. But I want to gather with God's people, and I don't want anybody telling me that I cannot come to church because I'm in a high risk category. So we do have to be really, really careful about not appearing that we're being unwelcoming, but wanting to share caution with people and let them make up their minds.
And be honest in your announcement of that. Is that exactly in that language? You know, instead of doing automatic exclusion, we kind of have this nebulous list. You know, encourage you to exercise you know, additional caution and additional considerations before returning to worship with us. But if you come, we will tell you we miss you. And if you're not, you know, if you're not coming back, we wish you well, and we miss you anyway. So we've just made a nebulous list that just says it, instead of going, because you're Pastor Jason's right. It is a real short jump from that to, if you're old, don't come.
Yeah.
And so, but using the wording that you did, President Eric, is you know, is tell them that's why we're saying this. You know, if the elderly come, everybody is treated equally with care, compassion, and respect. And so when people don't come, we totally understand. And
Sure.
And so when I don't see people, I understand. You know, but we kind of made a nebulous list so people didn't feel left out. Yeah.
Well, I'm a big believer in personal responsibility. We put the information out, we let people know what's going on, but then you let people make decisions for themselves, you know, so that's where we can be at.
So questions have come up, and I think we've maybe answered them. I would say with fellowship, with children, you know, can we have coffee at fellowship? You know, I think our recommendation, our guideline has been be patient and add things back slowly. And again, you're going to have to make that call for your community where you're at. You know, if you have, depends what your coffee system is. How are you going to serve it? Then are you going to wear gloves for the person serving it? Are you going to let people all serve themselves, which means multiple people are touching one item? You know, so, you know, we have doors handles that are wiped down all the time, and there's, you know, bleach wipes. We have doors open so you don't have to touch anything. So
Yeah.
you're
So Jason,
creating.
let me interrupt you real quick. We've got 3 minutes left. I want to respect
yeah.
the hour. And I think you had a poll that you wanted to take to ask people what they wanted to do. And then after we do that, if you'd let me close in prayer, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Well, we'll answer your questions online. We can follow up afterwards, but we're going to be offering these. This is coming out of the Missions, the Leverage Network, offering these webinars, and we're going to do a couple more topics. And so if you have a topic you want to hear, we'd like to have discussion about finances. We like to hear a discussion about mental health during this time. And the other one is, how do we continue online? What does discipleship look like online? And how do we improve that? We've been adapting to online, and now's the time to maybe take that adaptation and how to be more intentional on how to use it. So those are 3 that we're planning, bigger webinars, but we're looking to do some other webinars in the future. So if you have a topic that, please submit it to us. We'll be glad to do that. And then if you want to join a Leverage Network where you're going to get more intense coaching and also other training opportunities, there's an opportunity to do that, and you can talk to me or Daisy at the district office. We'll be glad to share that opportunity with you. So thank you for joining us. So why don't we close it with prayer at this time, and thanks again, and I hope this has been a blessing, helpful discussion. I think it's been great to get these things up and out, and hope you've caught on to the guidelines and start thinking about your local situation.
Amen. Amen. Let me answer a quick question before we pray. The question has come up about what we might call virtual communion. Can the pastor distribute individual things to people to take home and then him do it at Words of Institution online? And the short answer is no. We don't want to get into the place of engaging in virtual communion. Communion is us gathered together as the people of God, receiving from the hand of the pastor as from the hand of Christ, the true body and blood of Christ. So let's stay away from virtual communion. Thanks. Let's pray. We begin in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father God, you love us as a true father loves a true child. You have given your Son, Jesus Christ, in our place to make us righteous before you. You have restored us in relationship with you. And then, Lord, we just pray, like Paul says in Philippians 2, that we would have the same attitude in ourselves that was in Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but he emptied himself, and he became a servant. He became a servant to his enemies. He became a servant to his enemies to the point of dying on a cross. And so, Lord, enliven us in your church, that we would serve our community, that we would serve one another, that we would serve even those who are enemies of the church, with the hope that we would be able to share your gospel that is your power unto salvation. And so, Father, just awaken us, enliven us, revive us, and then use us at this time to be your messengers of your gospel to the people that are gathered already under your name, who have been baptized into your name, into the life, death, and resurrection of Christ. And then to those who need to hear the gospel, who will then come to baptism and to discipleship in a local congregation. So we ask you, O Lord, touch our hearts, humble us, use us as your servants, that we might serve and love one another in the love of Jesus Christ. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Thank y'all. This has been really good. Appreciate you putting this together, Jason.
Thank you for getting up your time and for your great leadership for us at the Southern District. Appreciate you joining us, Danny.
You bet.
Appreciate your ministry
My
there.
pleasure. Blessings to you guys up at the district. Keep up the good work. We love you guys.
And again, for anybody else wants to share best practices, what you're learning, please send them. We're gathering and holding them together. We'll distribute and help share with others. But hopefully you got some good guiding principles today to take home. And if you need any more help, give us a call. God bless. Thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye.